Welcome to this practice. We're going to be exploring how you can strengthen your access to the indwelling self by reducing the mental static of the 6 stations of the mind. Throughout the practice, I'll give little vignettes and then we'll pause to reflect, and then we'll move again and we'll pause to reflect. And my hope is that you get closer and closer to that inner self that is your home, the place you call home. I'll see you in the practice. Thank you for being here. We'll start with a simple, comfortable seat as we often do. And my intention today is to move through this practice looking through the lens of the 6 stations of the mind, which is a construct that we use in yoga psychology and also in recovery. For example, in my program called Hunger, Hope, and Healing. We were just discussing the 6 stations of the mind this morning in our group support call. So let's take a comfortable seat and picture yourself in the center of your plumb line. And rest your hands in your lap. You're welcome to close your eyes. And I'm going to ask you to picture that as you're sitting in the center of this plumb line, somewhere to your side would be the radio broadcast of the station of the mind called past. And you can ask that broadcast to turn down the volume for the next few minutes. Imagine that over to your other side, there is a radio broadcast mind, the station called future. And also allow that volume to go down. Ask each of these broadcasts to lower their volume to give you the space to be here. And then you could imagine somewhere behind you is the radio broadcast of self, the mind that represents the narrative self. The broadcast about who we are, who we think we are, what we're doing, the story that we tell ourselves about ourselves. And let's also ask that broadcast to lower its volume. And then you can picture somewhere in front of you would be the radio broadcast, the mind that goes to other in the form of, let's say, comparison, or sometimes it's a sense of competition or a fear of criticism from other, or we're judging the other. So the station in front of you is called other. And ask that one also to lower its volume. As you sense how that is for you, that these 4 stations have gone down in volume, notice what happens for your ease of mind in meditation. And you can imagine anywhere, as if it were on a circle, anywhere in that circle where you'd have the radio broadcast, the mind of resistance, aversion, strong dislike. The mind, it's called the not wanting mind. It's the mind of that which we don't want. And then also the mind of wanting. So another station on this circle that surrounds you, the mind of desire, clinging, craving, attachment, the wanting mind. And ask those two stations to also go down in volume. And then what remains in the center is your essential, central self. So inviting those radio broadcasts to stay down in volume, please raise your hands to your heart. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Punakto Savidyang Karavavaye Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidveshavaye Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Punaktu Savidyang Karavavaye Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidveshavaye Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Punaktu Savidyang Karavavaye Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidveshavaye Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om. And with your exhale, you may bow your head to your heart. Release your hands. Please open your eyes. So imagining this circle around you, this circumference, let's say, and there are 6 possible mental broadcasts, past and future, self and other, likes and dislikes. At any one time, they are raising up their volume to get your attention. And sometimes you'll feel hijacked by them or overwhelmed by them, or sometimes you might feel really like divinely guided by one of these stations of the mind. So each one has an expression that we could consider to be really healthy and ideal, and they also have expressions that are less healthy or less ideal. A past healthy expression is, for example, creating a foundation for yourself or having had a foundation made for you. But even today, the foundation you make in this practice is the foundation for tomorrow's practice. A healthy experience of future is that we can wisely steward or chaperone our future, knowing what wisdom would be as we go forward. So the health of the self station of the mind might be like self-confidence or self-agency or self-appreciation. A healthy expression of other would be like, oh, these are my community members, my sangha, my companions and allies, not my competitors, but my collaborators. And a healthy expression of wanting mind is like, I'm dedicated, focused, I have motivation and volition. And a healthy aspect of not wanting mind is, I also have clarity, discernment, and boundaries. I know what is skillful and what is not skillful, for example. So each has a healthy expression, and they also have their difficult expressions. In fact, in the 5 causes of suffering, as taught in yoga, the 5 kleshas, we have ignorance of our deepest nature as the first cause of suffering. And then we have the sense of separateness, the self that feels separate from other. And then we have craving and aversion, so wanting mind and not wanting mind. And then we have fear of not going on being, fear of judgment, fear of annihilation, fear of not getting what you want, fear. So those are the 5 causes of suffering, and these are the 6 stations of the mind. And each one of them can kind of create its own kleshas, or they can be helpful and skillful expressions for us. So to look into this in the physical body today, we'll stay in the seat that we have, and you can imagine that there is this surround that you have asked that volume to lower. Clasp your hands, take the heels of your hands straight down, and inhale, raise up. Then exhale, side bend to your right. Inhale, rise up to center. I just lost my water glass. It is now the cat bowl. Exhale, side bend to your left. Inhale, up to center. There are many cat bowls in the house, so now they have one more. Exhale, push out, rotate to your right. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, rotate left. Inhale, rise up. And exhale, bow forward. Interlace your fingers. Inhale, rise up, roll the shoulders open, lift your chest and your heart, open your throat. And exhale to where we started. We interlace the fingers, inhale. Exhale, right. Inhale, rise. Exhale, left. Inhale, rise. Exhale, wide and twist right. Inhale, rise. Exhale, wide and twist left. Inhale, rise. Exhale, bow forward, sweep your hands around to the small of your back, interlace your fingers. And then inhale, raise up into a little seated back bend. And exhale again to center. Notice any change in the volume of the broadcast of like wisdom or presence, any reduction in the volume of the other broadcasts. And let's put the blanket aside. Come to your hands and knees. I'm going to face forward for you so that I have the same orientation that I just had. So we're going to come into table pose and check that you've got space on either side to step a foot out to the side. And then in this table pose, we'll begin with inhale, raise your right arm to twist to the right. Strengthen your left arm as you do that. And then exhale, lower down, place your right hand firmly and without rushing. Inhale, twist to your left. Exhale, release down, again without rushing. Inhale, twist right, strengthen your left arm. Exhale, return. Inhale, go left. Exhale, return. Now walk your right hand well forward of your left. Reach your hips back, lower the left elbow down. Relax the weight of your head. Since we walked the right hand forward, any bit of reaching the hips back is actually not going all the way to child's pose. This is called one arm puppy dog pose. And then exhale, press into your left hand, walk your right hand back to table pose. Step the left hand well forward of the right, out in front of the cat. Touch your right elbow down, reach your hips back. Relax the weight of your head so you can breathe into the left side torso, your left lung, even the back of your waist on the left side. And then exhale, press into your right hand, walk the left hand back to table pose, and now step your right foot out to the side. Try to level your hips left to right. So if you reach back with your right hand, the sacrum and the sitting bones are pretty well level. And then as you inhale, open your right arm to the right. And exhale to come down. Place your right hand firmly. Inhale, twist to your left. Exhale to come down. We're going to repeat to the right. So on your inhale, and with your exhale, let's go left. And return. And step your right knee in. To table pose, let's step the left leg out. Okay, press firmly into your right arm. Inhale, open left. Exhale to come down. Let's go evenly at the pace of the breath. Inhale to the right. And exhale to return. Once more in each direction. It's possible that you're glimpsing how asymmetrical you are. And that's okay. We can work with it. Let's bring the left knee back into table pose. Walk both hands forward and reach down into puppy dog pose. So hands forward, bring your chest and heart towards the floor. Try to keep the hips pretty much over your knees. And breathe deeply into the lower belly and the back waist. And then walk your hands back to table pose and come down to kneeling. Drop your hips back to your heels. Okay, come back to Vajrasana. Now, when we're kneeling in Vajrasana, we're going to use an inhale to go up. That's like going to be like a little back bend. And on the exhale, when you come down, we come down into child's pose. The hips touch the heels, if possible, and the head comes down to the floor. If the floor is going to be kind of far away for you, put a blanket, something here to give you support. Okay, so it goes like this. This is the inhalation. And then the exhale. The hands go to the small of the back. And then inhale again, rising up. And exhale down to child's pose. Hands at the small of the back. Now this time as you inhale, raise up but look to your right and then overhead. And exhale, look left. As you come down, then you're going to center your head in child's pose. Inhale, go left and up. And exhale, right and down. Straight up one more time. And exhale down to child's pose. And then up to Vajrasana. Okay, let's pause and just check in to see, as that settles in your body, what is now the circumstance with your mind? You may be watching your heart rate settle down, coming back to homeostasis, or your breathing rate may come down to balance. What happens for your mind? So ideally, what happens in a yoga practice is that we are cultivating that inner central self, the greatest resource that we have. You can call that Ananda or Atman or consciousness or love. We're cultivating that, and we're putting into perspective those 6 stations of the mind that surround us. It's not just that we're trying to squish those volumes down, like we had some sort of bicycle pump and we're going to push it back down. And then we're hoping to pump this up. This experience of consciousness or grace is always available to us, yet we're often forgetting it. That's what avidya means, in fact, that we're forgetting our inner nature. And so having done some movement, it kind of works at some of the yayas of the body. And we call that, by the way, top-down, bottom-up processing. It means you're using the mind to pay attention to the pace of the breath, being mindful of left and right, front and back, and you're using the lizard brain to breathe, move, and experience. So that's called top-down, bottom-up processing. And it can help to give the limbic brain some soothing. So now we're going to take a seat for a little bit of pranayama, and then we'll go back to this kind of surround sound, and I'll ask you again what's happening with the mind. You're obviously feeling more comfortable, Nakula. And this is now your water bowl right there. But I'm going to take that mouse away from you, okay? Enjoy your tail. Yeah. Okay, let's come into the Ujjayi breath as a baseline. We'll balance the inhale with the exhale. So place your hands in your lap, lengthen up through your spine. Make a hollow space in the back of the throat. And begin listening for the quiet whispering sound of the breath. As you cultivate the sound of the breath, remind yourself the inhale begins in the pelvis, first third, middle third, then the upper third. The exhale also begins in the pelvis at the pelvic floor. And see if you can balance the length of your inhale with the length of your exhale. If it's difficult to have the exhale be equal to your inhale length, practice slowing down just the first portion of the exhale. Don't wait until the end to try to match the length. And do that for 2 more breath cycles, please. And then when you've completed those Ujjayi breath cycles, invite your mind to relax, relax your breath, your body, but stay connected to awareness, to the present moment. You can open your eyes as you're ready to. Okay, my little savage beast got really relaxed when I was doing the Ujjayi. So a clarification, here in the West, our mode often tends to be, what can we do about the troublesome things? How can we get rid of them? The troublesome mind patterns and so on, or the problematic behaviors, how do we get rid of them? We have a second consideration, which is how do we make ourselves stronger or do the better thing? How do we cultivate that thing that we could be, which I think is also, these are both valid. But there's a third thing in yoga, and that is, how do we regain access to, how do we open the access point again to consciousness or grace? How do we come back home? So then when you're in that place, it's much easier to cultivate the skillful and reduce the unskillful. It just becomes like naturally, you're guided from within, from the more indwelling koshas, we could say, from Anandamaya kosha and Vijnanamaya kosha, less from the animal mind. Right? So now we're going to do something that requires me to move my position. I don't want to. Hello. That's so nice, your devotion. Yes. But I'm also teaching right now, honey. So take a seat on a blanket with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor. I'm going to turn sideways because that's going to be easier for you to sense where we're going. I am going to disrupt you, Nakula. So take a seat, knees bent, feet flat on the floor like this. Okay, place the right hand behind you. Please inhale, raise your left arm. Open your chest, your heart, and your throat. Roll the right shoulder back. And then with an exhale, rotate across to your right. You can hook your left arm to the outside of your right knee. As you're twisting, if you haven't yet, please return to the Ujjayi breath. And let's see if we can balance the length of the inhale with the length of the exhale consistently. And we'll try that for at least 4 breath cycles as we twist to the right. Of course, when you're twisting, your breathing may have a different length than when you were just sitting for meditation. So acknowledging that and not veering into wanting mind or not wanting mind, but simply the concentration, the sincerity mind. With your next inhale, raise your left arm, reach back up. And then exhale to release. Let's bring the right arm forward, left arm behind. And breathing in, raise your right arm, roll the left shoulder back. And exhale, twist to your left, balancing your Ujjayi inhale with your Ujjayi exhale. Notice the qualities of concentration or even dedication that are required to keep balancing your in-breath with your out-breath while you're twisting. Your next inhale, raise your right arm up, roll the left shoulder back. And exhale, come upright. So bring the torso upright, walk your hands to a place behind you, point your fingers towards your hips, roll the shoulders back, open your chest and your heart and your throat. And now see if you can balance the inhale and exhale in a back bend. Listen for that in you, which is concentrating. That's called dharana. That which is dedicated, that's called abhyasa. And inhale, rise up to your seat. And exhale, take the legs forward and come over to Paschimottanasana. And now notice the length of the breath, balancing inhale with exhale and forward bending. As we turn in each direction, you can imagine that you're staying in the center of your awareness, the center of your practice, even though the 6 stations of the mind may surround you. Let's continually ask the volume of those broadcasts to go down. In fact, you could ask those broadcasts to just back up a little bit and give you the space to have access again to consciousness or love. You'll walk the hands back towards your hips. Inhale, rise up to sitting. Bend the knees. And we're going to put the blanket aside and come over to a table pose again. If you do need your blanket for your knees in table pose, of course, by all means, please do that. Come to table pose. Place your hands firmly on the mat so that your hands are shoulder width apart. Curl your toes under and reach up and back to downward facing dog pose. As you reach back to dog pose, press from your heart down through your arms into your fingers and thumbs. And then practice balancing the length of your inhale with the length of your exhale. And inhale forward to plank pose. Exhale to table pose. Inhale, cow pose. Bring your chest and heart forward. Exhale, child's pose, also called pranam. Inhale to cat. Exhale to cow. Inhale, downward dog. Exhale in downward dog pose. Inhale, plank pose. Exhale, table pose. Inhale, cow pose. Exhale, child's pose. One more time. Inhale, cat. Exhale, cow. Inhale, downward dog. Stay for the exhale. Inhale, plank. Exhale, table. Inhale, cow pose. And exhale, child's pose. Also called pranam. And then walk your hands to your knees and come up to Vajrasana and just check and see when you're arriving, what is the quality of that antenna that would connect you to the divine or to consciousness. Now let's step the right foot forward and come into the pose we're going to call Anjane Asana. Now place your right hand on your right knee, and the left hand can be on the floor or on a block, whichever your preference is. Allow the hips to glide forward. Lift your chest and heart. You can also look forward. And balance the inhale with the exhale. We're now in a little bit of a back bend pose, but we also have flexion, spinal flexion and spinal extension. So see what it's like now for you to balance your inhale with your exhale. With your next exhale, twist your lower abdomen first to the right, and then twist the rest of your torso to the right. Now, as you're sort of gazing back, you could imagine that surround of the 6 stations, and you've asked them to be quiet, to give you the space and the access again to what feels like centered or loving or present. And let's breathe in one more time. On the next exhale, rotate your torso around to face forward. Bring your right fingertips to the floor, and let's inhale and straighten both legs. You're going to raise your hips, press into your right heel and your left toes. And exhale, bend your right knee, return to Anjane Asana. Inhale, straighten your legs, whatever amount you're able to do. Exhale, come down slowly to Anjane Asana. Inhale, straighten your legs. Move your gaze along the floor back towards your left toes. And exhale, come into Anjaneyasana. Move your gaze forward and perhaps up the wall, maybe about halfway. And one more time, reach back on the inhalation, follow your gaze back towards the left toe. And exhale to Anjaneyasana. And then step your right foot back and come into Vajrasana. So essentially you're asking these various broadcasts to quiet down. You can now ask each of those stations to see you making this effort to be clear, centered, integrated. You can ask them to give you the space to keep making the effort, not to intrude on you, in other words. Now let's bring the left foot forward to Anjaneyasana. The right fingertips can go to the floor or to a block. Go ahead and place your left hand on your left knee for a place to start. We are partially in flexion for the lower spine and partially in extension for the upper spine. So notice what it's like to balance your inhale with your exhale. And as your hips have eased forward, now become aware of the exhale breath, and with your next exhale, twist to your left, starting with the lower belly. Notice how it is to balance the breath when you now have added a twist to the spine. And then with an exhale, come around to face forward. Let's bring the left fingertips down to the floor, curl the right toes under. Inhale, straighten your legs, press into your right toes and your left heel. And then exhale to glide forward and down. Try to move that with the length of your exhalation. Inhale, as you glide back, take your gaze towards the right toes. And exhale, as you glide forward, bring your gaze along the floor and forward up the wall partway. And do this twice more. So it's your pace, your breath, your body. And then once again, come back to Vajrasana. Drop your hands to your lap if you like, and check in to see what is the quality of the mind. How much access do you feel you have to your inner wisdom mind? And can you imagine the surround? Those other broadcasts are quieting down. So sometimes I like to think of it as if you were your own castle You have a kingdom. That kingdom is your, your dharma, your practice, your sovereignty. You are your own castle around which there is a moat. And hopefully that moat is a little farther out from the castle, not too snug to the castle, because when the moat's really close to the castle, by the time someone's crossing the moat, they're already in the castle. So I recommend that it's out a little ways. And for right now, we can imagine that you have a round moat, a castle, and 6 drawbridges, and they've all just come up. We're asking the villagers, we're asking the troublemakers not to invade, not to enter. Okay, so come up to standing. Take a wide stance. In this wide stance, we're going to be clasping the hands behind the small of the back. So if that's difficult for you to do, I recommend that you use a yoga strap instead to put your hands like inside the loop of the strap. My strap is in the other room right now, so I'll just say that much. You can get your hands into a strap that would be shoulder width apart like that. Or clasp your hands at the small of your back freely like this. Okay, energize your legs, press into your heels and toes, lift your chest and your heart, and inhale into a back bend mode. And then exhale, come forward and down. This is called Prasarita Padottanasana. We'll have the arms clasped here. Breathe in. On the exhale, glide your shoulder blades up towards your hips, lengthen your neck. With your next inhale, bring your chest and heart forward. Rise up to the back bend, take your time. And then exhale, glide forward and down, also taking your time. Keep your feet engaged, the leg muscles engaged and toned, so your pelvis is a source of stability. Exhale thoughtfully, and on the next inhale, we'll go back up. So you're breathing in. And then exhale, release the clasp of your hands or release your strap and stand at ease for a moment. And turn your right foot out to the right, turn the left heel slightly back, and then breathing in. Okay, exhale, bend your right knee, come into side angle pose. Breathe in, energize your right hip and your right heel. Now exhale, rise up to center. Good. Inhale to where we began. Okay, rotate your feet to the other side. Here we go. With the inhale, sweep your arms wide. Exhale, bend your left knee, bring your right arm past your ear. On the inhale, press from your left hip to your left heel, strengthen even your back heel, your right heel. Follow an exhale to bring your torso up to center. Inhale to where we began. Exhale, turn your feet to the right. Okay, inhale, Ujjayi breath. Exhale, Parsvakonasana. Breathe in strongly. Exhale, Warrior Two. Inhale to center. Exhale, turn the feet. Inhale. Exhale, side angle. Inhale, strengthen. Exhale, Warrior Two. Inhale to center. And exhale down to Prasarita Padottanasana. Now allow the breath to get a little bit slower. You'll notice that in a forward bend and a less active pose, the breath may get longer, smoother, slower, naturally. So give your concentration to that. And then raise your hands to your hips and please rise up to standing. And then bring your feet together, heel toe like this, and come into mountain pose. Relax the breath completely and picture yourself then standing in the center of this sort of castle. The moat is tranquil. It's not an irritated moat. It's just a moat. Boundary for you to have a sense of sanctuary from your own mind. Right. So right now the drawbridges are up and we're just going to rest in mountain pose. And then come down to a seat on your blanket, please. And let's have this seat be as you would for Janusirsasana or things like Upavista Konasana or Baddha Konasana. So for me, it's one blanket and I just use the very front edge of the blanket. So you can also decide what is appropriate for you. Okay, so take a seat, a wide seat like this, we call Upavista Konasana. Kona means angle. When you come into this seat, let's picture it as our mountain pose, the version of mountain pose that we're in as we're sitting. And see if your mind can find its way to center. And bringing that centered quality with you, go ahead and walk forward to Upavista Konasana. Notice the length of your breath here, what you're capable of doing when you're in a forward bend. And it's not that we're saying, can you compete with yourself? Can you improve on it? Can you do more? We're simply saying what is possible comfortably. Walk your hand back towards your hips. Rise up to sitting. Hold your left foot in. Now it becomes Janusirsasana, just making this one change. Okay, lift up through the center line of the body, rotate your torso to your right. And let's just start with the left hand coming across to the outside of the right thigh, right hand behind, and twist to your right. Keeping this rotation to your right, whatever amount that is for you right now, And as you inhale, raise your left arm up overhead. And exhale, come out over your right leg while keeping your left hip grounded. Relax the weight of your head. Keep a little swoosh of the lower belly to the right. So this is a forward bend that also has a twist. Encourage your breathing to be deep and smooth at the capacity that you have or the capacity you're discovering, but not something that you're coercing along the way. And keeping the breath balanced between inhale and exhale. With your next inhale, raise your left arm up. And then release and fold your right foot in. This is now called Siddhasana, as we line the two heels up like this with the pelvis and the pubic bone. So Siddhasana, another form of mountain pose, as it were. So check and see how things feel. Where do you find yourself? Can you stay oriented to this inner self that is clear and grace-filled? And then keeping the right foot in, take your left leg out. Lift up through the center line of the spine and then rotate to your left. So bring your right hand across to the outside of your left thigh. Left hand behind and twist to your left. You're including, excuse me, including the lower belly and the torso, but most of that rotation is going to be in your chest and your heart. So rotate left and notice what happened to the length of the breath. And we are again asking those 6 stations to keep their volume down, to grant you the space and the sovereignty, the access to experiencing your inner self. With an inhale, raise your right arm straight up. And then exhale, and as you come forward, bow over your left leg. Whatever amount is comfortably yours, relax the weight of your head. Notice the length of your breathing as you now added a forward bend while keeping some of your twist. And then with an inhalation, reach your right arm past your left foot, rise back up to center, unwind from the twist, fold your left foot in, and come to Siddhasana. Think of it as a mountain pose again, where you're standing in the center of the castle of yourself. So finding your own sense of center in this thing we call the kingdom, which is a word I'm drawing from the Bhagavad Gita. And that kingdom means your sovereign self in the Dharma, in consciousness, in life. So now what we're going to be looking into is a pose that helps the mind, particularly the Vata mind. And Vata mind is, this is the season that we're in right now. We're in the Vata season of the calendar year. And so the vata mind is the one that swirls and becomes ungrounded and can really wander out. It's like taking little hot air balloons up and out of the kingdom. Where's home? Kind of like in the story with the witch and the house and Dorothy. Gosh, this is what it's like to have my concussions and that amnesia. Sometimes it comes at, it's totally obvious it's Dorothy. I got it. So pitta mind is different than that and tends to be more like the Tasmanian devil. It has things to do. It's going out to do those things, and it rarely realizes that it's actually driven by the 6 stations of the mind. Vata is also driven by those, as is Kapha dosha. And Kapha dosha tends to go kind of, when it feels overwhelmed, it kind of tends to retreat and go inward and downward and become more lethargic or more sluggish. You can think of Kapha dosha as like hiding out a bit. Pitta dosha is like Tasmanian devil, and Vata dosha becomes like in the swirl of Dorothy leaving home and going somewhere else, right? Having a magical adventure, but where's home? So we'll do a yoga pose that balances all 3 of these right now. And this is also a restorative pose, so it's quite a nice way to nourish yourself. I'm going to recommend that you have 2 blankets. I have a wrinkle in one of my blankets here, so fold it in half. You could also substitute a bolster instead of blankets. I do have the 2 blankets here. I also have bolsters, but you can choose what you'd like. These are going to go near to the baseboard, close enough to the baseboard that it makes sense. And if you have tight hamstrings, this pose, when you see it done, we're going to be putting the legs up the wall. If your hamstrings are tight, quite tight, it will feel like a hamstring stretch. And you might sense that your pelvis is being pushed off the blanket. In that case, it's better to elevate your legs up on a chair or on the ottoman. Or you could back away from the wall and have your legs at an angle. Just be careful that as you back away, you don't feel like the pelvis is in flexion and you're kind of landsliding off of your blankets. Right? Or that when your legs are up, if you've chosen an angle, we don't want your knees to hyperextend there because that'll end up being uncomfortable for the knees and possibly for your ankles. So if it's not a comfortable position as you get into it, please vary it to be supported by a chair for your legs instead of using the wall. Now to get into position, before the cat takes the blanket, you're going to come sideways like this. Yes, Nakula? And then we're going to lie down on the side and roll onto your back, please. But as you roll onto your back, you have your hips on your 2 blankets. And the legs go up the wall. And the blanket should be under your pelvis in such a way as you feel like your pelvis is neutral. Right? It's not slipping back, you're not falling off the blankets, and you're not also doing a big back bend with your hips and pelvis right now. Take the arms out to the side. This is a great time to put on an eye pillow, or if you have one, to cover with a blanket. And then let your mind come inside, not being, shall I say, seduced by the 6 stations of the mind. Allow gravity to support you. This is a time of effortless ease. Allow your body to focus on resting and tending. So you're not making any particular effort at all right now. Simply the effort to stay at home in your body in your mind, in your heart. Your mind gets busy. You can remind yourself you have permission granted for dropping in and not for tending to the broadcasts of the mind. Allow your mind and your body to deeply rest. Gift yourself with restoration. It is not only physical. Notice when you're resting, if the breath starts to become more and more simple, more and more shallow, almost the sense that you're being breathed and there is an effortlessness for the entire process. We'll rest for another minute here. Allow the mind to be soothed, and perhaps the narrative mind is quiet. Begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes. And bend your knees. I'm going to have you slide your feet down the wall or bring them off of the chair. Then roll to your side. And we're going to return back to sitting. I had a little event with Nakula here while I was down, and he just made himself a bed on my lap. So transitioning. There you go. And please come back up to sitting. And if you come to sit, find a place that is comfortably physically yours. And I'm offering a prayer that we can all have that inner sovereign mind that feels connected to consciousness and grace, that feels like you're back home in Anandamaya Kosha, or connected again to the indwelling Atman. Allow your mind to settle. And to remain relatively still. As you rest in stillness, know that it is deeply benefiting your brain and your body, as well as your mind and your heart. Remind yourself where the stillness is in the center. Invite this sense of center to deepen so it can't be taken from you nor intruded upon. And not because you're rigid, but because you're at home. Remind yourself again that as you rest in stillness, deliberately, you're deepening very positive neurological, biochemical health for your body and your brain, mental health, emotional health. From the center of the stillness, just imagine the quality of self-appreciation, the quality of dedication, the quality of openness to whatever is to come. The quality of others as part of our community, our sisterhood and brotherhood. Wishing well for everyone, everywhere. the quality of healthy discernment. And then the experience or the quality of having a trustworthy foundation. This practice right here, right now, is your foundation for the rest of this day and for tomorrow. And perhaps for many tomorrows. So please raise your hands to your heart. Thank you for sharing your practice and your time. Namaste. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me and with the community. If this practice generated questions for you, please leave those in the comments down below. I look forward to hearing from you. If the practice was helpful, please click the like button. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That does help us to keep producing more classes and programs for you and for the community. Thank you very much. Namaste.